It's a good day to have a great day, baby.
It sure is. Hey, I'm Steve Wyatt, and I want to welcome you to the Wyatt Matters show. I'm your host, and with me today is a great team of co hosts. And together we hope to get you laughing so that you'll keep listening and leaning into the only hope that is absolutely guaranteed to hold you up, even though our world seems so determined to bring us down. Sound like a plan?
Yeah.
Well, all righty then. Let me tell you about our team. First up today is author and Christian counselor Kimberly Herman.
Hello.
We've got author and host of the podcast For Membering, John Samples.
And I am not Bruce's keeper today.
And one of my favorite pastors and a strong leader, Bruce Templeton.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah. So this show is going to be good. So we're not going to linger a minute longer. Let's dive into our first hot take. I cracked up early last month when I stumbled across a post from the TSA, everybody's favorite Transportation Security Administration. Yeah. And then when it began showing up on all the national news outlets, I immediately began blaming our education system. Take a listen to this.
Hey, travelers, listen up. TSA has a message, and this one's a little spicy.
It's a little spicy, and we thought it was pretty surprising. Agents are asking flyers to stop trying to use their Costco cards as real ID. I don't know. Apparently, enough people that we need to talk about it right here. TSA posted on Facebook, hey, we love hot dogs, and we love rotisserie chicken. That's the next person, but please stop telling people that their Costco card counts as real ID, because it absolutely does not.
Okay, now that
Why not?
World?
I'm ashamed for our country. Do you understand that, Kimberly? Do you have it?
That's insane. Okay.
As of May 7th, just to give some context, all travelers flying domestically must present that real ID compliant driver's license. You probably have it. Or another acceptable form of ID, whether it's a passport, military ID, or blah, 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 blah. And passengers without this proper identification cannot board their flight.
This is the first year all passengers need a real ID or passport to fly. Most real ID compliant cards have a gold star right there, that star on the top right corner. And while some Costco membership cards are labeled as gold star, they are different things. Melissa got a good laugh out of that one too.
I was trying to figure out where's the connection here.
It's the gold star.
There it is, the gold star.
Will not make your flight, folks.
Yeah, and my kids got gold stars on their piano lessons, too. They're getting on a plane. I mean, I am so ashamed for our country.
Unbelievable.
What is wrong with these people?
I got to tell you, Wyatt, early on, getting a real ID in Kentucky, and probably in just about every other state that was a late adopter, has been a nightmare for the state. They went from county clerks issuing a drive, which you may be a 15-minute drive from the courthouse, to regional locations now where some people have to drive hours to get their real ID. Really? Connie and I just got our first Costco card last week. I'm serious.
I didn't have to drive as far.
Yeah. And I thought, well, doggone it, I looked at the Gold Star membership with Costco and thought, I don't, probably don't need that. Until this broadcast today, I thought, well, there's the gold star. I didn't know my real ID had a gold star. Did any of y'all know that it had a gold star on it? I didn't know what the difference was until today. And here's a funny thing. We traveled some, and I've got my real ID now. Got it in Kentucky, got it in Nevada. But we were traveling on Amtrak, and Connie didn't have her any picture ID with her. This was after, the real ID thing was going on. And she showed her, she said, you got any form of photo ID at all? And she used her Disney card, her Disney pass with her photo ID on it. And the guy said, that'll do. Okay. And let her on the train. And I'm not talking about Thunder Mountain. I'm talking about Amtrak. So, It's
Brought to you by Costco.
yeah.
Goodness.
I,
I mean, there are a lot of things. There's Gold Star Chili in Cincinnati. I wonder if that's
But the fact that TSA had to put out an announcement tells you how many people across the states were trying to do this.
yeah. Again, I'm so ashamed. Chuck Taylor's, the Converse shoes. They
Yeah. Good stars.
Heineken has a gold star.
put your picture on the bottle and you're good to go.
Goodness.
Oh my goodness. Okay, John, there's another side to this story, and
I bet there is.
I have dealt with it so many times, and it sometimes infuriates me. Other times I just laugh. But it's these TSA officials who get intoxicated by the power of their badge. It's downright scary. Have you experienced anything like that?
Well, I guess sometimes I've noticed that, first of all, these folks are doing important work for the king.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We all know that. But seriously, some of these guys and gals get a badge and they forget they're guarding a conveyor belt, not the Ark of the Covenant. That's a little. I did have a TSA agent once reminded me to de-shoe myself. And when I pointed out that I was just wearing flip-flops, he said, then take off your attitude. So they've got something, and that was pretty good. I had to say good for that one. But by the way, I do need to mention that I did see on TV where they are probably changing their tune about making us take our shoes off.
No, that's official. It's done.
It's official.
It
well
is.
then I'm sure then that my personal crusade of wearing my shoes 24/7 for a week before going through a TSA checkpoint in my sticky socks has had its effect. If you get my stink, I mean my point.
Took me a minute.
There's another line, but I mean, don't you love all you guys? We have an emotional reaction to lines like, empty your pockets and place your items in the bins.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
No, nobody?
Yeah.
Laptops out of your bags. That's the one that honks me off.
That troubles me,
Well, if
I'm going to
I was gonna say,
initiate something, isn't it easier if the laptop is out of the bag than in the bag? It's just me.
I got so frustrated with taking my stuff out all the time that I got the TSA pre-check. Do you guys know what TSA pre-check is?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I did it.
Explain it though.
Yeah, that's the way to go. So you don't have to deal with a lot with that following rules.
The one thing that they do that has actually helped me many, many times is as you're walking away, they say, as you leave, don't forget to check your bins.
Yeah. Yes.
And because I've always leave something in the bin. So,
Yep. We always leave
these are
stuff
good
behind.
people. They're looking out for us. They are.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They're doing a good job.
Yep. I do think though that some do, heavy is the head that wears the badge. Is that how that goes? Or something like that?
I've never heard that one, but
All right, guys, that's good stuff. I just want to remind everyone that we've got some great things going on other platforms. You can find us on all of the podcast platforms, your favorite one, as well as in terrestrial radio. We're on YouTube, and we really want to build our presence there. Not for our own aggrandizement, but we want to reach as many people as we can with this show. And you can help us when you go to YouTube is subscribe and hit that like button. That just helps other people find us. Our website, I don't think I gave that to you, is WyattMattersShow.com. Now, I want to throw it to Stacy Champagne. Got a great story here. Can't wait for you to hear it. So this happened a while ago, but a so-called wife named Stacy Champagne, who is also CEO of a cybersecurity firm called Hackers in Heels, wrote this post on her LinkedIn account. Quote, I had multiple clear-cut career accomplishments in 2024. My husband, zero. no certifications, no college courses completed, no documentary features, no awards. How do you do that? I asked from across the dining table. How are you able to go through a whole year without doing any of these sorts of things and be okay? He had no response. End quote. Did he need one? Jesse Shudo, Stacy's husband, is a Navy communications officer. He holds a STEM master's degree and has met all the requirements for his next rank, even though he has to wait for the clock to tick before he can actually achieve that rank. And she thinks he's a zero.
Yeah, man.
He does all the grocery shopping, cooks all the meals, yet zero. No wonder there was an avalanche of negative comments. One outraged ex-user, echoing hundreds of others, said, if my wife spoke about me like this, my next Google search would be divorce lawyer. Another wrote, have fun being all alone. Maybe those certifications will keep you company. Still another said that Stacy, quote, sold her soul for likes on the internet, end quote. Oh, and did I mention Stacy's company is listed as having 0 to 1 employees?
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
He's really killing it, baby.
Shocking.
30 seconds.
So why were the reactions against Stacy so harsh to the point she had to restrict her replies? Because what she did was universally understood as a violation of her marriage, a violation that actually comes straight from the Bible. Welcome back. Now, I want to explain. When God created marriage, the gospel was his guide. And so marriage only works to the degree we mirror the same kind of love God showed to us through what Jesus did when he was with us. And so when people say that the biblical pattern for marriage is regressive or even oppressive, they're just plain wrong. True biblical marriage is neither of those things. The Bible says if you want a great marriage, just do for your spouse what God did for you through Jesus. You do that, everything else will follow. So what did Jesus do? He gave himself up. That's what he did. So in that same way, the husband is to love his wife just like Jesus loved us by giving himself up, by serving and caring. And the wife is to love her husband by respecting him, honoring him, and graciously following his lead. If you think I'm making it up, here is exactly what the Bible says. Each one of you must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. That's it. That's it. That's how to make marriage happen. But Stacy didn't do that. And people called her out, rightly, because she tried to call her husband out. All right. Not a lot of funny here, Trent. I've had my rant. I guess it's your turn. Is success really just a matter of do more, achieve more? The one who dies with the most trophies wins?
Man, it's not. I'm convinced that relationships equal results. The greatest things in life are the people I love, the people I surround myself with. 2 is better than 1, right? 3 is better than 2. Can you imagine strings, 3-stranded cord wrapped up in one of the strings is belittling the others? It doesn't make sense. And so, yeah, I don't have a ton to say about that. I would have to really break it down a bunch, but relationships equal results. The love of my life is my wife. And boy, yeah, we can rub each other wrong, but we forgive each other and we know we're better together.
Good stuff. Mary Beth, I do think that one of the real problems in our world today has to do with culture's mad pursuit to empower women, which is something that I love. I think every woman is equal in the sight of God, but it's almost as though a line has been crossed. Do you agree or disagree? What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, you know how we are as a culture. It's like we want to swing the pendulum and to one side or the other. And I stand for I love strong women. I guess you could say I am one. But I believe in women stepping into their calling and walking in wisdom and using their voices. I don't believe that they need to become, sharp or brutal in order to be strong. And I think you don't have to tear your spouse down in order to be strong or to stand tall. In fact, when you publicly are diminishing that person, even if you're joking, I think it chips away at trust. It chips away of what you have in your private world. And then if it becomes a pattern, you're not just airing frustrations, you're really violating that emotional safety that marriage is built on, because it's supposed to be a covenant, not content, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing I'm seeing right now is there is kind of this rising up of women who are strong and who are in leadership, also allowing their femininity to be a part of that and let that be their strength instead of having to pretend to be overly masculine or something like that in order to be strong. So that's kind of encouraging that we're seeing a little bit of that pendulum coming back to women just being women and still being strong and being who God made them to be.
Yeah. And I think also that when a strong, powerful woman who has high levels of the leadership gift, when they fulfill God's assignment to them to respect their husbands, when they show that level of respect, then what I have discovered is husbands are just so giving, so accommodating. What can I do to help you achieve everything that I believe God has for you? You don't have to tear down those walls. He'll knock them down for you.
Yeah.
It's been my experience.
Yeah. I would say that's definitely a very personal experience for me. I have an extremely supportive husband, but I also work really hard to be honoring of him, even though I am the louder, more boisterous sort of personality,
Right.
But it can work when you're both honoring each other.
Guys, if I can interject real quick, this is hard to describe on radio or even a podcast. I'd need to draw it out. But the origins of husband and wife marriage in a Hebrew, the original writing is in ancient hieroglyphics. And the pictures for husband are an ox head, the right arm of God, and teeth and fire. And wife is right there with him. Her first image is ox head. The second one is teeth and fire. And then it's the letter E, which means the breath of God. And so Yahweh, the Y in the husband's name and the E in the wife's name is where you get Yahweh. If you remove those two images out of those hieroglyphics, all you have is an ox head and teeth and fire, which means strong teeth, strong fire, strong destruction. Add God in there and you have a beautiful marriage of teamwork. I hope that makes sense, but it's cool Hebrew origins. Yeah.
That's cool. I think one of the things, Todd, that really bugged me about the post was that it's as though she was airing things from within their marriage, the privacy of their bond in a very, very public way.
Don't get me started on it. I've just been sitting here in my seat about all of that, figuring when to jump in on this. And I hope it doesn't sound like a rant, but there's just a very practical matter about the line between where private marriage stuff just needs to stay within a marriage. It just shouldn't be posted. Whatever happened to confidentiality and privacy issues? And what happens to trust when you make your spouse the punchline? At what point is there emotional safety in a marriage?
So destructive.
And I'm even thinking here, okay, what if the roles were reversed? Can a guy get away with that sort of indictment on his wife in public? No, of course not. And he shouldn't. I mean, he really shouldn't. And my point in that is that gender equality is that we play the same rules in love and respect.
Right.
And
that's true. I think we got to go here in just a few seconds, but her husband actually is operating in contentment. I want to talk about that for a whole show sometimes
Yeah.
because that's not a
good.
bad thing. That is a great, wonderful thing.
She's
All
married
right.
to a
Great
really
show,
good guy.
guys. Thank you. And we will be right back. One of my favorite lines from the great Apostle Paul is a favorite, even though it unpacks a difficult challenge. It says, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. So let's break it down. Live at peace. That's a target we should all aim for. And we must try to hit that target with how many people in our lives? Oh, I didn't catch that. What was that again? Yeah, everyone. And since that is a compound word, and given the fact we just talked about the Costco thing, maybe we should break it down. Every translates into how many ones? Some ones? Most ones? Nearly all ones? No. Live at peace with everyone, which includes, if I have my math right, even that one person who always manages to get under your skin, right? So, how are we doing so far? Now, if that was everything Paul had to say about this verse wouldn't be my favorite any more than it is at the moment yours. However, boys and girls, that isn't all Paul has for us. In fact, there's a teeny tiny, itsy bitsy, incy weetsy little 2-letter starter word sitting there in plain daylight right at the beginning of this humongo challenge. So let me read it again, see if you can pick it up. If it is possible, well, that was helpful, right? If it is possible, live at peace with everyone. That's the challenge. But the fact that that if is even there means what? Living at peace with everyone isn't what? Isn't possible. Meaning you can breathe now. You can have as your goal to do absolutely everything right, to measure every word you speak, check your ego at the door every time there's even a potential for conflict, and yet still not be able to live at peace. So the challenge is, as far as it depends on you, in other words, given the limited cards you hold, give it everything you got. Make your best effort. Just try with the understanding that you're the only one you answer for. So it doesn't all depend on me. Now, that if isn't a word you're going to need for most of your relationships, because most friendships, most family connections, most people in your life, those relationships just mostly kind of flow. Mostly. You don't have to work at keeping the peace. And maintaining the bond doesn't require a constant vigilance or routine tiptoeing around as though in a minefield. Because with most folks, you mostly get along. Mostly. Now, every relationship has turbulence now and again, but you make a course correction, or they do, and voila, you're back on track again. But then there are those other relationships. Anybody have at least one somebody in your life that's a real pain? Maybe even downright impossible to do life with? A trusted friend who, without warning, just turns on you? A family member who won't forgive you for doing exactly what they also did just last month? A work associate who undermines you and undercuts your credibility at every turn? Everybody's got somebody like that. A somebody who moans and groans and gives you the cold shoulder. They criticize you. They feel jealous toward you. And the thing is, they probably don't even realize they're being so difficult. And in most circumstances, they're quite friendly. Some might even say charming. These people don't sit up at night thinking of ways to be nasty to you. And yet they leave in their wake ulcers, hard feelings, bruised, broken relationships. So, what do you do with somebody like that? The apostle says, live at peace. But what if that's a daily battle? Well, let's keep it real. Do you have days when you give just about anything to be able to pull the plug and relocate to some deserted spot atop a mountain somewhere? No electronics, no cell signal, no irregular people. The problem with that plan is that God said, all the way back at the very beginning, it is not good for us to be alone. So that's just not a good plan. Even though other people complicate things, even though some people will disappoint, frustrate, and aggravate you, often thwarting you in your search to live at peace, even then, God says alone is not an option. Where am I going with this? Would I surprise you if I told you that David had an irregular person in his life? And I'm not talking about just any David. I'm talking about King David, the man after God's own heart. Well, I'm going to tell you all about it when we come back after the break. So we're talking about dealing with irregular people in your life, and I want to use David, King David, as an illustration. I mean, he was the new king, but the old king wasn't done with the job yet. His family was a mess. He had a daughter that was raped, a son that was murdered, a little baby that died. But then out of nowhere comes a Weisenheimer by the name of Shimei. And I call him a Weisenheimer because the very first time these men meet, Shimei comes charging after David, cussing at him and pelting him with rocks. Shimei even said, "Get out, you scoundrel. You've come to ruin. You're a man of blood." And then he starts stalking David every day, lying in wait. And whenever David dared go outside, Shimei would ride him like a roller coaster at Disney. Plus, he does something else irregular people often do. He lied just to amp the whole thing up. You have a Shimei in your life? Well, his attack was so unfair that one of David's good buddies, Abishai, said, "Why should this dead dog curse my lord the king? Let me go over and cut off his head."
Amen.
Well, that's one form of conflict resolution. But David isn't down for that plan. In fact, he's still trying to see if God had a purpose in all of this. And he even said, if Shimei is cursing because the Lord told him to, who am I to say, why are you doing this? So leave him alone. That was David's plan. Just let him curse me. It may be the Lord will see my distress and repay me with good for all this cursing. Well, David expands on this thinking over in Psalm 38 when he wrote about some other irregulars in his life, people who, listen to that, set their traps to harm me and talk all day long plotting my deception. You feel like you got somebody like that in your life? So here's the thing. Did David say about this crowd, let them go ahead and curse me? Maybe I can learn something? No. This time, David said, I'm like a deaf man. I cannot hear, so my mouth will not offer a reply. He's not looking to learn anything. He's not even listening. He's dealt with these high maintenance relationships for so long. He's placed isolation shields all around him so he can deflect the rocks and, yeah, even the cursings. Have you learned how to do that? Or are you still trying to understand where he's coming from? Or maybe your skin is so thin that every insult leaves a mark. No, 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 no. There comes a time when you got to pull up your big boy pants. And if you're in an irregular relationship and living at peace seems impossible, then at least wear your armor, because your options really aren't many. You can either stand there and bleed all over the place, or you can pick up a rock and toss it back, or you can grab a shield or add another layer of skin. Here's what David did. He trusted God to keep the score so that even as the rocks were flying, David could keep doing what God wanted him to do. In fact, the next time Shimei shows up, David's other son, Absalom, has died. David is in this deep grief. And even so, when Shimei hears that David is back in town, he hurries down to meet him. And as soon as David sees him, he just knows more rocks, more cussing. He braces for another of Shimei's famous rock concerts. Thank you very much. But when they meet, instead, Shimei falls down before him and he says, "Don't hold me guilty. Do not remember how I did wrong, for I know that I have sinned." Time out. Those three words are the same words David said when he was confronted with his sin with Bathsheba. I have sinned. You got to know, David hears those words from a guy he doesn't want to forgive. It was a kick in the gut. Was Shimei being sincere? David didn't know, but he couldn't ignore I have sinned. So he forgave Shimei right on the spot. Have you come to realize it's easier to forgive when you remember your own need for forgiveness? It's so true. However, before you decide that David is a super saint, let me tell you about scene number 3. David is on his deathbed. He calls Solomon in to come meet with him. And then he asks Solomon for a favor. "Sure, Pops, I'll do anything for you." "Thanks, son. You remember that jerk Shimei, how he cussed and threw rocks at me?" "Yeah, Pops, I remember." "Well, I swore to him I wouldn't put him to death for what he did, though it was my right to do that. And I haven't, but that doesn't mean you can't." What? What? "You heard me. I want you to bring his gray head down to the grave." And Solomon did. If you're confused, I get it, because it seemed as though David had forgiven Shimei, right? But he didn't. Instead, David was saving stamps. Let me explain. You remember back in the day when grocery stores gave out those S&H green stamps? That was my job as a kid. I'd lick them and stick them in those books. After we had enough books, we'd get a place setting, right? You guys did it? Well, that's David. Everybody around him thought, "Oh, he's such a great guy, such a forgiver." And that's who David wanted to be. But down in the innermost recesses of his heart, he never did forgive. He was licking and sticking stamps. Hit with a rock, no problem. Stamp. Cussed at, no worries. 2 stamps. Wrongly accused, lied about, ain't no thing. Whole page. And after a lifetime of saving stamps, David said, "Son, it's time to redeem the book." He wanted to forgive. I believe that. I think he tried to forgive. He had the will, but he didn't know the way. He just didn't know how. Now, here's the difference. You and I live in the shadow of the cross, and we have the example of Jesus that we can follow. So instead of collecting stamps, we can really, truly forgive even the most irregular people in our lives. In fact, listen to how Jesus did it. The Bible says when they hurled their insults at him, he did not retaliate. When he suffered, he made no threats. He didn't. He didn't spit back. He didn't shout from the cross, "You just wait till Sunday. I'll be on you like white on rice." No, he did not retaliate. This kind of behavior goes counter to everything we hear and see in our culture. These days, if somebody does you wrong, culture says lick it and stick it. Find a way, any way, to get your paybacks. So just like David, we keep sucking it back, and no one knows how far from forgiveness we truly are living, but deep inside, licking stamps.
Yeah.
But Jesus came to show us a better way. Doesn't have to end the way it ended for David. Jesus showed us that you really can bless that person who hurts you, and you can stop trying to make him hurt just because he hurt you. That's what Jesus did. You remember what he said about the ones who came after him? "Father, forgive them because they don't have a clue what they're doing." And instead of licking and sticking, The Bible says he entrusted himself to God because he'll handle it. I don't have to handle it. He'll handle it. Peter says, to this you were also called, because Christ suffered for you, leaving you an example. Every time I see that word example, I think of a coloring book, where the lines are drawn and all you have to do is fill in the empty spaces. That's the advantage we have over David, because Jesus has already sketched out the pattern that we are to follow. And it's up to us to just stay inside his lines. I love the thought of that coloring book because I kind of stink when it comes to art. I can't even draw stick people. I just can't. But I can color, because when you color, you just have to try to stay in the lines. And so when it comes to the difficult, frustrating, and downright irritating people in my life, your life, the answer is simple. I didn't say easy, but it is simple. You can either keep licking and sticking, which will ultimately lead to a very ugly ending, or you can follow Jesus' lead and just stay inside the lines that he has already drawn for you.
Wow.
Good stuff,
Yeah,
Steve.
this is really good. And, I love that metaphor, Steve, of the coloring book, because we can all identify with that. Even, you can't draw, I can't draw, but we can look at what Jesus has drawn for us. And as hard as it is, we can still stay in those lines. We can remember, okay, I'm not going to hold that offense against that person. I can do what Jesus taught us to do and forgive. It is hard, but at least we have that role model to follow.
You are better colorers than I am. Those lines don't constrain me as much as they seem to do you. But I love this, Steve. I love David. I mean, he was a jerk. Did great things, did horrible things. I think he's probably the best example of all of us. There's this side of us that wants to be all those good things and all those forgiving things and all that stuff. And then there's the side of us that, just can't get over it. And I think David is our view of us that says, God still loves us. It's okay. I don't know how. I still trying to figure out how to balance all that stuff. But David sure is an encouragement to me in both sides of him.
And that just the licking stamps, there's only one generation left that remembers that.
Kimberly, I was watching Kimberly, and she's going, "What are you talking about?"
I think when I was very, very young, maybe there was stamps involved. Maybe. It kind of sounds familiar, but
those were rubber stamps.
Yeah. My point, though, is I've never looked at holding on to something in quite that fashion. It's a great illustration to say, okay, lick the stamp, put them in the book, and then there's payback. Then there's redemption, and isn't that funny? Because that's what the stamp stores were all called, redemption centers.
Right.
And
that's right.
And with David, he lost his redemption. He got his revenge, but he lost his redemption in the process with the guy. So, but we all getting rocks thrown at us, and it seems today there's more rocks than anybody can throw. And being at peace with everyone is a key, as much as it depends on me. And if it depends on me every day, then I'm going to be the peacemaker as much and as best as I can in the process, and and move on. I say that. I really want to do that.
Yeah.
And that's the point I didn't get to that I do want to underscore. In that same passage that I was talking about, Jesus leaving us an example that we should follow in his steps, he actually gives us the plan for how we can do it different than David. And that is, he entrusted himself to the one who judges justly. David, he just kind of held it in, and when he couldn't hold it in any longer, there was explosion. But Jesus showed us that if we entrust it to the God who in the end is going to sort it all out, then there is a release when we understand that.
Yes.
Yes.
So many of us think we live in a world where justice is DIY, and do it yourself.
Yeah.
But Jesus is the only one amongst us that has stood up and says, forgiveness is the only tool that works.
Good stuff. Sounds like that ought to be a really good ending, but we got 16 seconds left. So,
Well, what I like what you said, Steve, earlier. You had, and I don't know if this was date, I don't remember, but anyway, I wrote it down that that God will keep the score, and that we are to just focus on what God has us set out to do. Because if we're just focused on God, then this other junk is not going to matter.
that's right. That's a good way to end, too. I love it. All right. Thank you, guys. Great show. Awesome. We'll see you next time.